Hello, welcome to the Smoke Bluff Park Committee meeting. We'll start tonight by acknowledging that we're holding the meeting tonight on traditional Squamish Nation territory. And next point, adoption of the agenda. So if we could have a motion to adopt the agenda by amending to move item 4.3 to 4.2, 4.3 being the Community Wildfire Management Plan discussion, just ahead of the budget update so that Bill he doesn't have to listen to everything. Does anyone like to? Caroline? Yeah. Great. Okay. So the minutes from last meeting, did everyone have a chance to review those prior? We don't have them attached today.
They were posted.
They were posted, yeah. I believe so. So I guess we just still approve it. Okay. So does anyone have any issues approving the minutes from the last meeting in September?
I contacted someone and asked about the whereabouts of the minutes.
So I believe
was that because you hadn't signed?
Yeah, so I haven't signed the original
right.
copy, so I don't believe they can post them online.
Right.
Until like on the district website. Right. But if anybody wants them, we can have them distributed. A motion to approve the minutes. Thank you, Wes. A second. Okay, so business arising. Does anyone have any other business today that's not on the agenda? So let's start by tonight. We've got a full house, so welcome to all our guests. I'd like to, because we're starting kind of a new term within council, I'd like to take a second to have everyone introduce themselves. So maybe talk about what your role in the Smoke Bluff Committee is. If you have an appointed alternate for the committee that's not here, just so everybody can get a handle on what organization you represent, if any, and who will be here in your absence. Do you want to start?
Sure. Spencer Fiction, 99 Trials Association, so representing the trials, both motorized and non-motorized communities within the park. And, we currently don't have an alternate, but we'll be putting one forward.
Toby Ford-Kelsey, I'm the Squamish Access Society representative. Squamish Access Society is the local access advocacy group for climbers. There are, of course, many other climbers represented here.
Eric Anderson, I'm here representing the District of Squamish Council. I applied to be a member of the Smoke Bluff Park Advisory Committee several years ago in a competitive process and was disappointed that I was turned down, but now I'm finally here and I'm here to assist the work of this committee in its liaison, working with staff and its liaison with the council and district as best I can. And I'm here to learn as well, because I'm not a rock climber.
Carolyn Wilcher, Climbers Access Society of BC. My second, Brent Nixon, is actually going to be not coming anymore in future meetings, but we have appointed another member of the Climbers Access Society of BC, and similar to Squamish Access, it's just a climbing group that is focused provincially around how to support other climber entities across the province in the interior up north and on the island. And Lower Mainland as well.
Bill Stoner, I'm not on the committee, but I'm presenting tonight on the fire chief.
Great, thank you, Morgan.
Suzanne Burgent, District of Squamish, Park Supervisor.
Elaine Naseby, District of Squamish Planning Department, and I've been on this committee for some time. So yeah, Sue is more sort of operational management side, and then I'm working on the sort of more planning related items for the park. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Barry Janik. I'm the Executive Director of the Federation of Mountain Clubs, and this is my first meeting here. I was engaged by the Fed a year ago in March, and the board has decided to take an interest in the Smoke Bluffs, and they've asked me to attend meetings, and next meeting, I think Monica Battelle will probably join me, and Monica is probably knows more about the Smoke Bluffs than anybody in Squamish. been involved in the process since the initial days of the whole Smoke Bluffs debate and the land being transferred over to the Fed. So that goes back to 1986. I've got some stuff for you. I brought some things, beads and trinkets for you all. I got some copies of Cloudburst. If you would like one, take one. I will pass them down. I have a brand new brochure from the Federation that tells you what we are and what we do. This is literally came off the press 2 weeks ago. So please take one. And in addition, I brought you all some prayer flags. And please take one and pass them down. And thank you. Look forward to listening and learning. And if you have any questions at all about what the Fed's up to, please let me know.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Do you want to introduce yourself, or shall I?
Yeah, sure. I'm Sarah Barker, and I'm working with Helen on the same committee, and I'll let her describe.
So I'm Helen Habgood. I represent Federation of Mountain Clubs. This is probably my last meeting. Sarah Barker's going to take over for me. So I think they've all introduced themselves very well. I'll be Sarah's alternate.
Okay, that's great.
And we'll send a letter to formalize all of that from the Fed.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm Wes David. I am a lay person, no association other than that I live in Hospital Hill and use the Smoke Bluffs for climbing, hiking, route development, just an avid user.
And the assistant chair.
Oh, and I'm also the assistant chair as of earlier this year, that's right.
I'm Matt Parker. I represent the Squamish Trail Society, and Sean Gosnell is our alternate.
I'm Brian Moorhead, long-term member of the committee, as member at large at this time. I'm glad to see you all here again. Thank you.
And I'm Chrissy McKay. I'm a member at large on the committee as well. I'm a climber, but just a general park user as well, and I'm the chair for this term. Great. Thank you, guys. So let's head into community wildfire management plan and implications for the Smoke Bluffs Park discussion. Eric, did you want to introduce this?
Sure, I'll just do that very briefly. On September 25th, Fire Chief Bill Stoner presented an updated Community Wildlife Protection Plan to Council, and that was to the old Council. And this was a plan that had an earlier version that's now been updated. And Bill Stoner was appearing before our new council just last week in connection with a grant application towards implementing this new Community Wildlife Protection Plan. And the idea occurred to me that the Smoke Bluffs Park Advisory Committee has very often been discussing what to do with vegetation management debris and other issues pertaining to wildfire management. As a Hospital Hill resident, I have been, in 1961, my parents were building their home on Vista Crescent and watched from downtown as the entire mountain was on fire and people were evacuated. Luckily, our house was saved. In 1967, we returned from holidays to find out that everything from across the street right up over the bluff to the Mancomb River was burned over to a crisp. And another fire, as some of you may know, in 1986. So with that personal experience of the importance of being aware of the forest fire risks in Smoke Bluffs Park, I inquired whether it might be an idea to invite Chief Bill Stoner here, and I'm very happy with the support that suggestion received. And Bill, I'll turn it over to you to introduce the Community Wildfire Protection Plan and its relevance to Smoke Bluffs Park.
Okay. Not sure where we want to go with this, so I'll just kind of do a high-level overview of the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And I would encourage people to jump in and ask questions or make comments as we go along. So I think Councillor Anderson did a really good introduction, but I'll just kind of go a little further into it. So we did have our Community Wildfire Protection Plan updated in 2017. As I said, we presented it to Council on September 25th. There were 48 recommendations that came out of it. I don't know if they were shared with the committee, but that's a lot to go over in detail. And so I'd asked the forester and the consultant to put together the Community Wildfire Protection Plan to kind of high level it. And what he came up with the plan overall ensures that future development and wildland interface is built in a fire smart manner. So these are the focuses of the 48 recommendations. Enhance fire smart programs for existing building stock, decreasing the occurrence of human-caused wildland fires through prevention and education initiatives, performing fuel treatments on high-risk forest stands within the district in order to lessen wildfire growth and spread. Do you want me to go on to the grant, where we're looking to go with that? Because that really is kind of the start of the direction of implementing these recommendations. Or
Yes, I think so, Bill.
yeah. And so, as mentioned, and this is pretty neat. So we went in September 25th, and I just reread the council report today, and at that time, just 2 months ago, there was a talk about fuel treatments, and at that point, it was a 25%, 75% district provincial grant that we'd be able to do. So we chip in 25%, we chip in 75%. And it wasn't in the budget. 2 months later, we have $100,000 in the budget. It's all we have the grant application to go into. So things have changed a lot, and we really are just trying to stay up with them. Obviously, my thought would be the wildland fires that we've seen over the last few years have changed these programs to make them more appealing to local communities. So we put in we will be putting in the grant for the $100,000. And what we want to do with that is largely threefold. There we go. Our three main focuses would be education would be the biggest one of our biggest areas of focus. And there's multiple areas where we want to go with this. Fire smarting local communities, and what that is just finding local community groups like this, take a community like Valley Cliff and have champions who go and work with us, work with the Fire Smart organization, get grants, and take care of everyone's own backyards, because the district of Squamish is going to be very tough to get in everyone's backyard, nor do they probably really want us in everyone's backyard. And so just working on the community level to work to cut down high hazard fuels that people have in their own backyard. So that's Fire Smart. We have a big education program, and part of that, which would be relying, one of our big focuses would be being smart in the backcountry, or in this case, not the backcountry, but the front country, I guess is what it would be called. Fires, campfires, smoking material, that type of thing. It's something I think during August, September time.
I can't even hear. I don't know what it is.
Sorry, let's take a quick
Can we
second
just move this
and we
over
can
here?
figure this
Kelsey,
out.
is that?
No, I don't know.
There's court right here.
Beautiful, also
I know I don't hear that my voice. Don't have it again.
Okay, I don't know. Try again.
Maybe we need to yell.
Is there a reboot?
No, it's not a case of yelling. Somebody's moving one of these mics.
Oh, so are these are all mics, eh?
Yeah.
So there's three? So this one, the cord is kind of in between the tables, so.
You want us to touch the mics to see if they're hot?
No. Try again.
Okay.
Okay.
Come on, Bill, speak up.
City Association.
Oh, so I'll start from the beginning.
That's great, everyone had a chance to get more cake.
Yeah. So what were we talking about at that time? Fire
Smart education.
Education. Oh, and so we're gonna have our education. So our media this summer really pushing that backcountry or front country fire smart activity, or just being smart about fire, not fire smart. We're gonna have a wildfire community preparedness day, which is a kind of a national thing. We're gonna tie into that and make a very big thing, which is gonna be the launch of our media campaign this year, and we're going to continue with our community chipper program. And one of the areas of focus of these programs is the Valley Cliff area. So there is a tie-in there. The other things we were looking at are development permit areas for wildland interface areas. So if you're building on the edge of the wildland, we're going to ask that developers build fire smart, simple things like setbacks from the interface, that type of thing.
Does Smoke Bluffs, sorry to interrupt, does the Smoke Bluffs include like a wildland? Would that be part of it as a wildland?
As I said, this is all moving very quickly,
Okay.
but absolutely, I would absolutely think that would be part of what we would define. Just a great point, a clarification about the program overall, the Community Wildfire Protection Program. We look at public lands, so we're looking at anything that's provincially or municipally owned or controlled. So those are the areas that we're looking for, the focus of those programs are, because that's where the focus of the government funds allow us to work.
I see, so you couldn't do treatments inside the Bluffs Park, you'd have to be dealing with things outside.
I think we could do it with inside the Bluffs Park.
Because it's municipal.
Still
Yeah,
municipal.
yeah,
Okay,
right.
sorry to interrupt.
But there are, I mean, that's why I brought it up, because there are large areas around the Smoke Bluffs Park where we would have less influence. So that was my point there. And the final thing we want to do is fuel treatments. There's a number of areas where a community wildfire prevention plan has indicated we have a very high level of concern about their ability to transmit fire rapidly. And so we are going to, with this grant money, do all the planning, all the outreach that we have to do to prepare to do fuel treatments in those areas, to do the fuel treatments later in 2020, where we'll be applying for the same grant in that year. Those are largely north in Squamish, where we have a higher risk area. The Smoke Bluffs, which is good, is a moderate risk. We're going to deal with the higher risk areas first. So that is really a very quick overview of a big program. But if anyone has any follow-up questions or they want to dig deeper on something, that'd be great.
I just have a quick question about what exactly is involved in fuel treatments.
Yeah.
Is it just chipping or spreading or what?
No, so what the goal of fuel treatments is to get fire out of the crowns. We're not going to stop the fires, right? But if we can keep it on the ground, firefighters are able to have a much more effective response. Once it gets into the crown, it becomes a very big problem. So a lot of it is taking fuel trees and thinning them to about 6 feet up, taking those lower branches so it's harder for the fire to run up. And if there's high density in the crown, thinning some of that. That is largely what fuel treatments are.
Just another question. I know it's very preventative and that's awesome because that's actually what we need. Is there something that's more in terms of fire has already started, like an evacuation process that has been put in place so residents know what to do? So it's not like the California fire where all of a sudden it's burning and people are trying to run in.
Good question.
Okay.
The District of Squamish and the Resort Municipality of Whistler have spent a great deal of time this year working on a corridor-wide evacuation plan. So, because obviously if we have something where we're both on the highway at the same time, and our two communities are so connected. So we are working on that. We hope to see that early in 2019. So, yes.
I had a question. So I think one of our management priorities or capital priorities was to develop some sort of fire management plan for the park. And we had deferred it at some point because we weren't sure how involved that would be. Does the District of Squamish Fire have any capacity to work with the committee on developing that, or the district, or specifically to the park, or do they have resources that would apply specifically to the park and which would eliminate the need to create a park-specific plan?
Yeah, we could assist at a very low level, but I would have a professional forester or someone work probably more.
Okay.
But I guess to some degree, we have done some of that. I mean,
okay.
We have recognized as a moderate level. It certainly is not a high level for the thinning. So things that we can look at are access to ensure our crews can get in if we have something. So I think we could certainly be happy to help.
But that'd be more on the level of a consultant.
And then again, some of that consultant work has been done with the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. It didn't focus on the smoke bluffs, but it looked at the community as a whole. So I think some of the groundwork is done, and we certainly can help in the fire response area and the access. We can assist, but probably we're not the lead organization.
Where is the plan right now? Where can we view it somewhere?
It would absolutely be in the council minutes from September 25th. September 25th.
Chrissy, what I can suggest is that you can pass on the links to the plan, as well as any other relevant things that might not occur to me right now, easily to the committee through you.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I'll just follow up with a couple of observations. This is an assembly of newspaper articles on the 4 major fires that have covered all of Smoke Bluffs Park, each one of them. The 1986 one was the smaller of them. They were all very devastating fires. If there's any theme that comes from the history of them, I'll just pass this around and we'll make this also available to committee members.
Absolutely.
It is that the winds have been a big factor. The southerly winds, in each case, the fires have started at the front end of the park, the southerly in residential, Neat and Cool, Penny Lane areas. All of 4 fires have started here and moved back up, in fact, in 2 cases, right back to the Mamport River.
Wow.
So the wind patterns have been a big factor each time that make it a very high-risk set of circumstances. The other thing that I'll mention, Bill, is one of your predecessors has passed on to me just privately that the Smoke Bluffs Park would be a very difficult place to fight a fire because of access challenges. And in that connection, it's my understanding that there are 3 gates that would be of interest in a firefighting situation at the top end at Smoke Bluffs Lane, and 2 gates at the bottom end, one to the old Mountain Blind Channel Road and Trail, and then the gate on the, you all have your own terminology for these routes, but so these gates each have keys. And Bill, I'm not sure if the fire department is good, as well apprised of these access circumstances as it needs to be in case the situation arises.
Yeah, we do have gates, they would be district keys. Yeah, so we would have keys to those.
I see.
And if our keys don't work.
And big bumpers.
we can get through those locks, so we've yet to meet a lot that slows us down, so.
Finally,
we did carry district.
Very good. I might mention, but I guess suppose it's something for us all to keep in mind as in park planning is access for emergencies. There is a piece of critical infrastructure identified in the Community Wildlife Protection Plan that is located within the park, and that is the radio tower. And in any emergency planning document, that's a piece of infrastructure that is highlighted.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of great points. The wind is always something front of mind in Squamish. Obviously, with wildland fires, that's always a concern for us. So certainly, in the accesses, they did talk about access and working on trail systems with mapping, so we were well aware of them. I think probably whoever did the Community Wildfire Protection Plan wasn't aware of trail forks, which is a great helpful app that helps us. We use it all the time for access issues, but we could still probably even go a little bit further about what we can get our trucks through and whatnot. So there's some planning there as far as access that would tie into that. That's great. So thank you for that.
Do you have one more?
It just occurs to me that once a community chipper program gets going, this may be of interest to the crews in Smoke Bluffs Park.
Absolutely,
We
yeah.
can stay in touch in that
Yeah,
regard as well.
absolutely.
That's great,
That
yeah.
would be great.
I had a question just on almost like a first responder perspective. Have you guys had any issues in terms of calls in Smoke Bluffs, first responding?
We spent some time in Smoke Bluffs.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of incidents that happen in Smoke Bluffs, but have you had any issues that prevented your access for first responder issues?
No, we can get, I mean, obviously it's difficult terrain to operate in. If we're going up to Octopus's Garden somewhere in there, that's you can only drive up there. And so, but we were able to access anywhere in there, yeah.
What about sort of signage and just wayfinding? If someone says, hey, I'm at this crag, do you have any trouble finding it, or is there something that can be improved in the park as far as first response?
We, spent some time up there, so we know it pretty well, and our local knowledge is pretty good. Our fire department are largely people who have grown up in the district of Squamish, and so I don't know that we need signage necessarily, perhaps and even if we do have ambulance crews coming in, they're out of town, we have people there who can guide them in, so our wayfinding is not an issue, or hasn't been.
Any further questions? Oh, well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We look forward to working with you on this.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it, thank you. Thank you for giving me that time. Get out of here.
Okay, so I'll give it over to you, Sue.
All right. The quick and dirty. So the budget overview for November 2018, operating budget. Budget for 2018, $5,000. Year-to-date expenses have been $3,676.45. Remaining budget, this is the committee budget, $1,323.55. Contract services budget, the budget for 2018, $24,000. Year-to-date expenses, $16,835.62. Upcoming expenses to complete our maintenance contract to year-end is $3,282. And remaining budget from that is $3,882.38.
Sue, do you have an itemized or a very rough overview of the items that have gone out of the operating budget?
Out of
Yeah,
yes.
the 5,000?
On hand, actually, yes, I do.
Great.
Primarily it's the benches.
Yeah.
You guys, there was authorization to purchase two benches this year. And
You mean picnic tables, I take it? So.
yeah, the picnic tables took up the biggest portion. And there was a freight charge also that came in with the benches. And some signage. There was signage added at I believe the one pit toilet up the top there. There was concern that people didn't know where to, they were only so many feet from the part of the trail, and they didn't know where the washroom was or the toilet. So we put an indicator up. That was a request out of the committee.
Okay. A question?
Across from Eden Pool.
Oh, yes.
Yes, sorry.
Was there any, I know we discussed earlier in the year actually, signage for campfires up top. Did that come out of the operating budget at all? Because I believe we had a sign put up like no camping or no fires.
We may have asked the contractor to do something.
Oh, okay, so would it come out of
in-house.
John's budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we had some graffiti removal.
Yes.
I remember that.
And was that made contract services or operating budget?
That actually looks like it came out of the committee costs. And a journal entry can always be done to fix that. Actually, I don't know why it came out of that one. And yeah, so that kind of sums up the committee costs. And then, of course, the other is our contract services, which is a monthly.
Sorry, I'll let you continue. I was just wondering what the.
Yeah. Alrighty. And to new business, just general maintenance ongoing with our washrooms and litter picking and our brushing. Lumberland Trail, the contractor removed a few trees at 2nd Avenue Craig to help with some a re-cleaning project, as I understand it. The new bike bridges up the main hydro road have been working well. And trenching, of course, this time of year, it's quite essential rain as we've had the last little bit. So contractor continues to work in various areas to mitigate a lot of water coming down where it's not wanted.
I see on here, there's, John had brought up the Lumberland stairs again. How does everyone feel about the erosion on Lumberland? Has anyone been up there lately? Because it's something that we had removed from our priorities as keeping it in a climber's access trail. So I'm not sure.
I was up there about a month ago.
What are your thoughts?
Pretty normal. There's a degree of erosion, but no more or less than any other areas of the trail. We're dealing with very heavy rain events these days, so we have to deal with that. But I still still feel that it should remain a climbers access trail, and maybe a little bit of remediation required here and there, but nothing really significant.
Came up at the last meeting. didn't
Yeah, so did we agree that, that $1,500 doesn't, I don't think it needs to be spent? If we, is anyone against that? Moving that?
I think John wanted to install like 2 or 3 concrete stairs at that rope access
The rope
section,
one?
like just a quarter of the way up. I think
Yeah.
that's what you want to do specifically, but I
Mike?
don't think it's
Yeah.
necessary since we're not really maintaining that trail as a.
My feeling is the rope access is a bit of a filter.
Okay.
In the wintertime, that area kind of ices right up,
Yeah.
so it's a little more treacherous. Some people try and access that to do a little ice climbing off
Yeah,
of the.
but they know what they're up to.
It should be well equipped then.
So no one feels strongly that we need those steps?
No.
Okay.
I think that was kind of like next.
Yeah, so we've
Yeah.
already, okay.
Where it says picnic tables at Tunnel Rock, is that the
Yeah, it's
picnic tables
actually,
at Free and Easy?
they're at Free and Easy,
Sorry.
yeah.
That would be not over
So it looks like we have about $1,300 left in our budget. And the upcoming expenses for the maintenance contractor, those just the month's worth of services to the Bluffs, like snow removal, his, like John's typical
Yeah.
December expenses, okay.
And the 3882, what will be remaining once his contract is paid out?
Oh, okay. Are we able to use the remaining contract value for, as part of the Bluffs budget? Like if we wanted to use it towards our trail budget?
I think we had discussed it, and I think we had said yes this year.
Okay.
However, the porta potties that remain at the bottom of the Bluffs, actually, they're being charged right now to another budget,
Okay.
and they probably shouldn't be. It should be coming out of this area for the
Oh,
park
would it come out
itself.
of the contract services?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so in lies, I guess, the other, where it's gonna go for this year for the trail,
Okay.
the phase 1,
Okay, so that's great to know.
yeah.
So we've got the 1323 plus 3882.
Yeah, so
For that.
5,200.
Okay. Does
I
any,
think Toby and I estimated it was around 4,900
okay.
with what the contractor had put forward as on a per meter
He
estimate.
gave us a per metre estimate, didn't he?
Yeah.
I would concur that seems reasonable based on my knowledge of other areas of the Bluffs.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if it was in excess of that.
Okay. So.
So do we need to move any budget around or can we pay some with the operating and some with the contract services?
Some with operating, some with contracted.
That's fine the way it is.
Yeah, it's one general ledger number,
Okay.
and there's just 2 different codes on the end of it that just.
Okay.
One question I had, is there any indication if they'll, with adding that additional washroom budget to the operating budget, are they gonna extend the operating budget more than it, like, would it be, I think it's like 24,000, right? Are they going to make it larger to accommodate that, or is it just gonna come out of that, his general?
It hasn't been proposed for the 2019
Oh, okay.
budget because the money is essentially there.
Mm-hmm.
So, pardon me, because it is nice to also have a little bit of a slush fund for, additional signage or.
Yeah, graffiti
or things that do come up that we have to, fund John to do, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let's put that on hold, the additional funds here. Parks event update, we don't really have, there hasn't been any event updates coming out from Devon, but I think most of the events that we saw go through the summer were pretty successful. We didn't have a lot of complaints, but if anybody hears anything, feel free to bring those up. Or bring them forward to me at the time too. Okay, so now we'll move to capital management and maintenance priorities. And I think today we should focus on the East Side Trail update. That's the most pressing, and I think in our next meeting at the beginning of next year, we can go through the priority list again and evaluate and reconsider. So Elaine, did you want to introduce that? based on your email, or did you want me to go forward with it?
I wasn't planning on introducing it, I can, or you
Okay.
can.
I can too.
Okay,
So-
I'm just gonna bring up a map.
Yeah, that'd be
Let's
great.
talk about it.
So for those of you who are new to the committee, we've been proposing a new trail on the east side of the park that connects district land that is part of the park right now and eventually up to the radio tower. So we've been consulting with user groups and walking it as a committee for the last probably year and a half. And part of the reason for doing this is there's a bunch of really good quality crags over there and there's also a bunch of unofficial trails that people really enjoy in the park. So we thought it would just be nice to add to the loop trail and extend the park trail system. So we've had, each user group's had an opportunity to go back to their groups and bring up concerns, and Elaine had summarized that in the email. Almost there.
I think it's updating the computer.
Oh, okay. So do we want to look at the map first and then go through all the individual concerns you'd highlighted?
Yeah, let's have a look here. So this is that proposed east side trail broken into the 2 phases. And then I just did a quick look at what some of the other trails in the area are. And it's not all clear to me, so I wanted to bring it to the committee to talk about it. It's a lot easier than over email. So I think maybe the first question I had was that the kiosk map that actually needs an editor to it, but that Helen produced, which is really great. It has a red dotted line. I don't have this, it
That's the
doesn't.
proposed route.
That's the proposed route.
Yeah.
Okay, that's clear. And then on this map,
It should be the same as the yellow line on this map,
Okay,
unless there were some changes made, I can't remember.
okay, I just wasn't sure why it was on the map. I didn't realize it was the proposed one. So yeah, on this map, we've got the yellow is the proposed east side trail going up to that Grand Dug Crag, the phase 2 going up to the summit. So in phase 1, I think the 2 things that I'd like to talk about are that there are downhill mountain bike trails that are clearly crossing it, and I want to understand how those different user groups are going to be managed. And then the second thing is that the actual trail alignment overlaps on top of a different downhill mountain bike trail. So that's a separate item that I want to understand how those users are going to be managed there. The third question, I guess, is that where I've written, what is this? So there's this partly blue trail that on our district GIS is called Grand Dug Trail. And it connects to this other trail that says it's a multi-use commuter trail. This trail doesn't show up on like Trail Forks mountain bike map, so I don't know what that trail is. So I just want to make sure that we all understand the trails in the area and how to mitigate any conflicts there.
Can anyone speak to the orange?
Do you have the map that Helen made there?
Yes.
That you just pulled up? Is there anything similar on that one? Because we GPSed all the trails there, including all the ones on the boundary, and I don't know if it exists. It might be just mapped wrong.
There were some early trials motorcycle
That's
trails
something.
built in that area.
That's
South
that,
Slope, for
oh,
example.
and so what they're talking about is something goes up through the Copens and then it looks like it goes.
The actual
this
expression
way.
multi-use
So
commuter trail
So it's not on this map.
was in the management plan, referring to the trail leading from Neaton Cool down to the lower parking lot. So
Yeah.
nowhere near,
That's not.
nowhere up there.
No,
But
that
is-
So that, if that term is cropped up there, it must be some sort of strange typo, or just something that's got nudged on a PowerPoint or something.
it's on our district GIS, so it doesn't necessarily relate to the management plan terminology.
It's called a commuter trail?
That's what it's called, so I can follow up with our GIS department to understand. I just thought I would bring it here first in case you all knew what this trail was.
It looks like, because it's parallel to South Slide, or south side. It looks like it's probably just a bad GPS.
Yeah, and there was some GPS work that I briefly got involved in trying to use the district GPS equipment to map these trails, which generated all sorts of garbage, which I thought had been discarded. But I mean, everything was in the wrong. The equipment wouldn't work in large parts of the bluffs.
Spencer, what were your thoughts? Sorry.
Well, there are some old trials motorcycle trails that, have probably fallen into disuse in that area, to the east of South Slope, what's labeled as South Slope at least. And I'm also interested in, management plan basically talks about mountain bike use in the block that is labeled phase 2, mountain bike use and trials motorcycle use roughly approximating block 2, but doesn't talk about phase 1, and yet we're talking about South Slide and other trails being used as descending mountain biking trails in the phase 1 block, which doesn't show up in the management plan. Are we going to address that? And I'm not saying we stop doing that. I'm saying we either recognize it or not, because this is conflicting with the management plan.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
The management plan said that they would provide for, encourage mountain biking and trails biking up in that phase 2 sort of polygon area. There was
approximately, yes.
There was maybe a discouragement of it occurring elsewhere, and that phase 1 is in the elsewhere area. So, but we all know there are trails there that are used by mountain bikers and trails bikers. So, I mean,
when we use
the fact that they're illegal trails, I mean, maybe that does factor into our decision of whether or not to proceed with the trail like this and overlap some of those trails.
I don't think any of those trails are illegal. I think you could call them legally non-conforming, but they weren't illegal. Any trail that we built up there, we did it with permission of Providence and other landowners.
Those are all approved under FERPA Section 57?
This is way before Section 57's existed. I walked in and talked to Frank Bison at the forestry office, and we talked about trails in Britannia and Smoke Bluffs and all the crown lands around here, Cloudburst, and we were given permission, and we were actually given polygons. Ourselves, the Black Tusk Snowmobile Club, we went through all of the permissions of the day.
So Spencer, is this in relation to the trials trails or the biking trails, just to be clear?
Well, the biking trails overlap the trials trails.
Okay.
So, if it's on Trails Forks, they call it a mountain biking trail.
Okay.
But it's not that it's only a mountain biking trail. It can be a hiking trail and multi-use trails. But they basically say that these are the trails that are available for mountain biking.
Okay.
But
So
that
when
doesn't-
we did the management plan, were any of the trails in phase 1 something your group identified as something that as of importance and to the park?
No,
Okay.
no. We were sticking, phase 2 is probably a little tiny bit shallow, but sticking roughly to what is a block in phase 2 was approximately the polygon that we had said, roughly will approximate the area that we are interested in, and not in phase 1. I'm actually more talking to the discussion on the table today, which is talking about those being mountain bike trails, descending mountain bike trails, whereas the management plan doesn't recognize that in phase 1.
So I guess we have to decide, if the management plan has said that the area in phase 1 is not recommended or not supported for mountain biking, then are we managing where our trail goes with relation to the mountain bike trails, or are we managing user experience and safety? So,
or both.
Or both, right?
Just to speak to the fact that, the way a trials rider might ride in an area where you've got, your horsepower to sort of session, the trickier parts, a mountain biker's going to start at the summit and come down and then connect to Silver Spoon right there and come out, because they're going to be using gravity all the way down.
Which one's Silver Spoon? Sorry.
Silver Spoon is the purple one, the pink one, right in the bottom right-hand corner. Yeah, or they'll head out.
Onto Plateau Drive.
Pops out into Plateau Drive, yeah. And so they're going to need to use, to have trail continuity for their experience, they're going to need to have access right through there. And trials, they'll sometimes come along Summer's Eve and ride up through those trails. So you can't, I don't think we could say that trials don't use those trails at all, Spencer.
Oh, I'm not saying that they don't use them. It's not encouraged, and we try to, I'm saying we don't have an interest in that lower part of phase one. It is too congested with other user groups. And we have agreed around the table that trials will try to stick into phase one or phase two area, education, signage, and all that other good stuff. We're going to have people, you know, crossing back and forth because of the trails that are directly to the east of the park boundary, which there's some very good trails in there.
And so Matt, your experience with your user groups, am I correct in saying that they didn't have an issue with the phase one?
No, and not with the building of the trail. The suggestion that came from the Trail Society was that if they built it and it was for uphill mountain biking, then pedestrians would be completely safe, because they noted that on their experience on the new Legacy Trail, mountain bikers going up it, or 50 Shades of Green, because mountain bikes are going up that trail, the pedestrians feel pretty safe because they're moving at a slower speed.
And this is typically an area where mountain bikers, they've traveled uphill?
Well, I think this is actually traditionally people going downhill, and I think this area is, because some of the trail appears to be actually newly built trail, not necessarily by any organization, but by someone who rides a trials bike in that area.
The climbers couldn't control.
Yeah. And I'm not, it's just, that's the way it is. It's just someone has been building, there is some newish trails in that area.
From our walkthrough, is there areas where we can minimize the overlaps? Sorry? Like from the walkthrough we've done, is like, for example, where you can see where on south side, the new trail has probably, I don't know what the scale is, but like it looks like 2 centimeters from here, 2 centimeter area where it overlaps. Is there sufficient room in those areas that we can separate the trails?
There is, and there's going to be still a couple spots for 50 meter stretches or so where the trails will be overlapping.
Okay.
But there are lots of places where the trail can kind of take a wider arc and then it'll cross the trail perpendicularly where the mountain bikers, the trails bikers will be able to go up or
Is
down.
that 50 when 5 was?
What's that?
You said 50 meters or 15 meters?
50.
50.
Really? I thought it's more like 5 or 10, isn't it, where there's overlap? I've been
At
hiking
the
there a
most.
lot recently.
At the most.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I have, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
No.
Maud, go for it.
You go ahead.
electric mountain bikes.
I
They
think this is
travel up-
another meeting.
This is this meeting. Electric mountain bikes will go uphill at 30 kilometers an hour.
Are they currently using this trail?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is
The
the
trail's not
projection
built.
for electric e-bikes?
They're taking over.
Well,
What's that?
the thing is that the starting point of
Already?
this trail is not really easily accessible by uphill mountain bikers. So, I mean, they could descend and then they could potentially turn around and ride back up it. I mean, potentially, but a lot of things are, I mean, there's a lot of what ifs up there, so.
Yeah, there is, I mean, all of this is, the only way up there is either by carrying something up a large number of staircases, or reversing that bottom right trail to Silverspin, which is kind of...
You couldn't bike up it, but you could
Or
you
even
could come from the upper
walking up
loop
it
trail.
with a bike would be much
You could
better.
access it from the upper loop trail if you're coming in from those,
Yeah.
But they're not allowed on the upper loop, right?
That'll stop
Mountain
them.
bike.
doggy style and all those ones that are
Oh,
up to the
okay.
north there.
A question I had is, like, are these, oh, sorry,
go
Caroline,
ahead.
I forgot about you.
I had 2 questions. First of all, has SORCA been invited to come talk to, like, have they been notified about this? And second of all, do they even care?
So Matt had consultation through this guy.
Yeah, I let Sorka know and got an email back from them. Pretty brief, they're not too concerned. It's not an area that's super heavily used by mountain bikes. The trails that are there for the downhill trails are pretty challenging trails, so they're going to appeal to an elite few, those that are willing even to get up there.
What was your second question?
Oh, and do they care?
Oh,
Or
okay.
is it,
Elaine?
Just Matt, I just wanted to clarify, you said, so are there potentially more trails in that area than we have on the map?
From my count, I see at least two trails kind of coming down that area.
Or, because you were saying that there might be some more newly built trails.
Oh, well, there seems to be a bit of a maze of trials rider slash downhill biking kind of trails.
Okay.
Could live on that.
And just further to what was just said, and maybe this is a point for another meeting or such, is that apparently SORCA is interested in having representation on this committee, and I'm not sure what that might look like, but I've been told that.
Do we, at that point, would we revisit the bylaw for the amount of?
I think the staff needs to review sort of the rules of who is members and in what form that might take.
Will that involve the committee? Like in some
I don't know.
capacity? Or?
Why after all these years does SORCA want to serve this
really.
committee?
I'd like to comment on, so in this list of comments, SORCA did make a comment. Since there will be an expansion of the hiking trail, it seems fair that we should be able to expand mountain bike trails in the area as well. Obviously, we would need to keep the same considerations in mind, but it is worth considering. I'm sorry. I think that is a load of hooey.
So can I speak to that really quickly? So
Yeah.
I've thought a little bit about that,
Yeah.
and I get what they're saying about like if we're building trails here, like there's equal access for users, right? But we've identified this as an area that's not for mountain biking,
Yes.
and so any trails that are built in the park need to go through the same consultation process as we're going through for this trail.
So if SORCA wants to build a trail, then they'll have to go through the same consultation process and they'll likely come up against some opposition.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
and we'll have to review the management plan for any trail that's considered. And we've done that for this trail, so I don't think we need to worry about that because.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
reiterate, this park was established primarily as a climbers
Yes.
park, which is a on-foot park.
Yes.
And there's plenty of mountain bike trails elsewhere, and there's plenty of other places elsewhere around Squamish to build mountain bike trails, and I feel really strongly about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
And I think that, maybe Matt, in your communications with them, could you indicate that we do have a process for approving trails and that anything that is built needs to be approved by the committee in the same fashion? And it will have to go up against the management plan and through consultation through stakeholders and committee consultation.
Sure, yeah. I was more focused on the first part of what I received, which just said, we discussed this at our exec meeting. No one had any issues with it as long as there's signage in place to keep people from getting lost, I think it says. And then existing trails are protected, no stairs built on existing alignments, and no users are displaced. Then I don't think there'll be a problem with it. That was the gist that I got. And I think if they're viewing this as, mountain bikes, I don't see it as carte blanche for them to then go, oh, well, you built this here, so we can build that. I know
It's kind of what it
does
sounds
sound
like.
like,
Yeah.
It does sound like,
I
yeah.
don't think that was his intent, but
I think it was.
you think it is?
Toby?
Could I note that Laura isn't in fact here? Laura is
Yes.
usually the person advocate. I mean, we have this very strange situation that one of the dominant user groups in the park are people that go walking. And we have apparently no representation of people that go walking.
Actually, Trail Society,
I know, Matt,
we're primarily pedestrian. But
so I understand, but in terms of actual discussion in these meetings, you usually talk about biking and not, that's just a statement of fact. So, it is important that we remember that this is substantially, and the only people I've ever seen, apart from Robin Barley, in phase 1 or phase 2, are people hiking. And I go there a lot. I've never seen anybody except hikers. And Laura has actually mentioned numerous times how, what an excellent
She
running
loves that trail,
running
yeah.
trail. Yeah.
So one thing I was concerned at, and for those of you who don't know me, I design roads, so I'm thinking signage when we look at it. Is there an easy way to, like, if we have a bunch of trails crossing each other, is there an easy way to say, look, trail crossing? Or I guess people who are used to interacting on trails that have multi-users might know this better than me, but.
Yeah, there's easily, before a trail crossing or before, there's a couple jump features on the mountain bike descending trail. We can easily put a sign on the tree that says caution, trail crossing ahead.
Perfect. Especially the amount of users right now isn't substantial.
But I am concerned that that might not be enough, because if a mountain biker's coming at 50 km/h down the hill, and there's a jump and the trail is right there, like they're not gonna be able to stop in time if all of a sudden they see someone. So there's something to be said for dismantling the jump features that are really close to where the new trail alignment is proposed.
Sounds like a good point.
Spencer?
I have two questions, well, one question, one comment. One question would be, the jump features I'm not familiar with, but I don't normally support man-made structures.
They're
of
rock
that-
rocks.
And they're natural formations?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm absolutely fine with something like that.
They're semi-built takeoffs on a rock knob with a sniper landing.
Yeah.
They're not wooden structures.
I'm supportive of that, and I would actually defend Matt, in that Matt I do find represents the Walking and Trail Society, and when requested, gives opinion about mountain biking, as he was this evening.
So, all that said, where are we looking for moving forward with this trail? Elaine, what do we need? Do we still need to go through that itemized list?
No, I think there's just some key questions that I put out before, and that was a really good discussion. But basically, yeah, how do we make this trail safe? Because if we're encouraging people to walk there, and these are black diamond, downhill mountain bike trails, obviously there's a concern that someone's going to get hurt. The other is, I think, that question of, is this meant to accommodate bikers? Like, would they cycle uphill? We had to talk about that. Would they cycle downhill on it? Yeah, how do we manage all of that?
So, Helen?
All the sections of trail that are new trail, and that are not currently mountain bike trails.
Like this proposed section?
Yeah, all the proposed sections, I don't think we should worry a bit about putting as many stairs as we want on those sections of trail. They're walking trails.
And you're
Okay, and
talking
now-
about phase one?
Yeah.
In phase
Yeah.
one,
Only, yeah.
in phase one.
Is the committee in agreement that this is not intended to be a multi-use trail, that it's meant to be an access trail and a pedestrian trail, and that we would manage user crossings versus accommodating multi-users on the trail?
I would support that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Phase one, yes.
Yes.
For
I
phase
agree,
one?
that's well put.
Does anyone feel strongly against this? Okay. Now, I guess to your first question.
Okay, so no uphill or downhill mountain bikers on the trail, and we'll potentially manage that with stairs to discourage that.
In the
Trail
absence
features.
of the ability to do it through a bylaw, which
Yeah.
we currently don't have.
Okay, that sounds like reasonable to me.
Okay.
So then what about where the trails cross?
Make it obvious.
Signage.
Make it cross at a steep angle so they don't merge
Yeah.
slowly.
Does the
It should
district
be
have
above.
standard signage for these type of?
Sorca probably has a standard that they prefer to use, so it'd probably
Okay.
be good to use the same thing that they've installed on other trails.
Okay. So to me, I don't see that as a big deterrent. Like the signage is easy. So what do we need to go forward with this trail?
We still have the 50-meter.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that too.
Yeah. Could we widen?
I don't really, in my opinion, think that we need to make one trail for bikes and one trail for hikers right beside each other. Like, we can accommodate small overlaps of.
For the number of
As long as
cyclists
they're
coming down
obvious.
there, I agree.
Yeah, and
I
there's
don't
not a
like-
lot of overlapping trail sections. Like I said, 15 meters, it might only be 10 or something, like and we can,
And we could have a caution.
Open up sightlines through the
yeah.
trees, you know.
I think the sightlines are actually pretty good and they're already.
I'm not aware of them, I'm just saying that that
You
is
know
a
what,
way
there's
that
that
you
kind
can
of
manage
rock
it.
whales back on Tree Hugger,
Yes,
where it joins in with Southside there,
Yeah.
right where the trail comes around. The sightlines are pretty good for the bikers coming downhill
Yes.
there. So we might not even need to do anything.
But
But a
I
trail
just-
crossing sign would be
just a
good.
little bit of limbing possibly on the inside on some of the branches, but it's not taking out any trees, it's just limbing some branches back possibly.
So we're talking signage on this trail as well as the downhill mountain bike trails, is that right?
Or I would think signage on this trail, like just at the intersections of the trails. I guess so. I guess it would
Yes.
be visible to both trails.
So I think we'd have
yeah.
to alert the mountain bikers
Yes.
as well.
Okay.
All right, does anyone have any concerns with that? I know it's taken us a little while to get here. It's the end of November, it's raining, it's gonna snow. So I don't know, what do you guys think we can do this year?
I think we should start to move on phase one with the last
Yeah.
remaining budget.
Okay.
I'm sure we can get the phase one section done. That'll give us something to work with.
Yeah,
Yeah, when we have the main trail built, then we can start to look at these alignments and then more closely for crossovers and so on. So
okay.
What's the process by which the contractor is advised?
You would work with Sue.
Are we talking John or heavy duty?
No, we're talking.
It's about Keith
Or
Elfson.
sorry, Keith Halverson, okay.
If everyone's okay with that. I know there are other people that build trails. The purchasing policy is that if it's under 5,000, we can sole source. I don't know if we want to vote on that or.
well, we already know Keith Halverson has built most of the trails in Smoke Bluffs Park, and they're built to a very good standard and
Yeah.
have stood up very well over the years. So why would we change?
I have a comment on that,
Yeah.
and one is that if we keep it at $4,900 to stay in the sole source area, perception is not good to all of the other trail builders in the town, some of them who have built some outstanding trails. It could not be argued against, and it could be argued that keeping it at 49 looks terrible. The optics are horrible on it. So we must caution ourselves going forward about, I think, about doing that.
My estimate of 4,900 was actually high.
I think so too.
I think it's probably more like 4,400,
It's perception.
4,500. I mean, perception by who? Not the, is all this published? The estimated value?
I think anybody who wanted the information could get it.
So can I
And
make a suggestion?
we've also split the trail into 2 phases that also keeps each phase under $5,000 rather than one trail. We could split it into 5 phases if it was a $20,000 trail.
As long as all our
It is
discussions are documented and that this is not a conflict and we're not forcing it to be 2 $5,000 pieces. So I mean, all the minutes are here for the
No,
meetings.
it's not conflict. It is fairness to other trail contractors in the valley.
I hear what you're saying, and I think in most circumstances, that would be a valid concern, but I think because we have the time constraints we have this year, we have 1 month left, we don't want to go out to a bidding, we don't want to, and if we don't spend this money, like, from my perspective, it could affect, what's that?
It goes bye-bye.
Yeah,
Not
we
be
lose our
carried
money.
over.
Oh, and I did say
Yeah.
going forward.
Yes,
We
and I
have to pay
agree, going
attention to
forward,
this.
we should pay attention to it.
And I didn't say stop it now.
Yes.
I did say going forward.
It's a valid point, and I do think for this section of the trail, we need to, we've already had a quote from
To the end
Keith,
of
and
December.
so does anyone have objections to using Keith for this phase of the project for the amount that we have left in our budget up to what we would need for this? So up to the quote that he's given us per meter.
So just to clarify, so the budget is an annual budget? It goes January to December?
Yes.
It doesn't go along with the budget for the municipality?
No. Okay, so nobody's against it?
So we are clear that the dollars don't get carried over.
Absolutely,
They
yeah.
have to be, it has to be done.
So do we need a
Here's the
motion
rules.
for the district to approve Keith Halverson's start on the trail?
Do you think we need a motion?
No,
Yeah, I don't think we do.
Okay.
You can do one for fun if you'd like us to.
Do one for fun.
No, I don't think we need more
We haven't done a
motions.
motion.
Yeah, okay. Let's have one meeting where I don't mess up the motions.
It's already been approved at council, right?
Yeah, it has, yeah.
I mean, this thing's been discussed in about six successive meetings. Consultation was supposed to be finished in May, now we're in November. It's been to council and approved, and yet we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I think
Toby,
it's-
what has council approved?
Council approved it just before the election.
They approved what?
Well, the motion that, well, something came to, some motion, something from this committee went to council.
Yeah.
It's on the back here.
Approved.
Well, they don't really approve it, they approve the minutes.
No, there was, my understanding
There was a formal motion.
It was a formal motion that,
That
we even
council
watched
made?
it on, actually watched it.
Wasn't it a motion to begin the consultation process or
I think
something?
that was
or-
what we started, we were wording about a consultation of some sort for the next meeting, and that's why we had this meeting come up, because we wanted to talk about it further.
Yeah, And I thought that we were going to let the district take care of consultation, but then nothing really happened, so we just took it on ourselves. Which is I think why it's taken time.
Okay.
Well, regardless, I think we're at a point we can move forward, and I think that's good for the committee. So, let's move on to the next item.
So Sue, are you going to instruct John then to?
Yes.
I will
Sue
talk
will.
with John and we'll work it.
I'd like to
If-
just clarify something there, sorry to interrupt. I think you just said that this hasn't moved forward because the district hasn't done their consultation. We didn't have the trail alignment until, I think it was like a month ago. So
That's
that's
true.
actually what this, like, we didn't have the alignment. I don't believe that it was actually district staff that were going to do the consultation. I think it was always this group that was going to consult.
I'd agree with that.
Okay.
I think we did discuss as a group that we would each bring it back to our respective organizations.
We've done that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Do we have confirmation that the fellow that can do the trail building?
Keith?
Keith, that he can do it at this time of year?
Yes.
Okay. Because once it gets soupy, it's not gonna be pleasant trail.
Supposed to be sunny next week.
It
Yeah.
is supposed to be
Yeah,
sunny, but
nice
we're
weather
supposed to
coming up.
move to snow by the end of next week.
Okay, and we'll, Sue, we'll put Keith in touch with you and move forward with that.
I would urge you to move quickly on it.
Yeah.
Yes, it'll be like a tomorrow phone
Okay.
call
Perfect.
and we'll,
Keith's a really good guy, but you gotta move quickly, so get
Okay.
moving on it.
Before it goes
yeah,
to
very
Rome.
good.
He's just got back.
Okay, so moving on, so trails update is normally from Laura, but we don't have her here today. Does anyone, I've been away for the last month, but has anybody have any updates from the park they want to share, just from their experiences on the trails? I think I'll probably do a walkthrough soon, so let's move on from that. Brian, Craig Work Group.
Yeah, it's low time of the year, obviously, for crowd sort of development, etc. Just to be clear for people who are new to the committee, Squamish Access Society has two very effective volunteer programs. One is called the 10-3 program, where we provide trail crews in the Smoke Bluffs and other parks. And the other one is one we started a couple of years ago and is slowly coming together, called Crag Keepers. So we have a very good example of crag keepers this winter in the form of Grand Doug was given a thorough cleaning by the staff of Climb On, which should be noted Ashley Green. This is her second project in the Smoke Bluffs where she has contributed not only her staff time but significant funds and is to be commended for her involvement with the park. So the Grand Doug Crag is now in fairly good shape, and the Crag Keeper program we're struggling a little bit with it, but hopefully we'll get moving a little better next year. So that's all I have for Crag Keepers this year.
Great, thank you. So moving on, our last item on the agenda, I believe, is the 2019 meeting dates. So hopefully I'll pull up a calendar, and hopefully we can select the months that we want to meet. So I think this year we met, correct me if I'm wrong, in February, May. We missed our walkthrough in August. So we'll have to be diligent about that this year, and that's probably my fault. And we met in September and November. So we have had our 4 meetings this year, just not one being a walkthrough. So do we want to schedule the 3 formal meetings and the walkthrough today? And then if we need an additional meeting at the end of the year, similar to this year, we can call that at the time? Yeah, okay. So preference, so let's look at the year in 2 chunks. First half of the year, second half of the year, because we tend to, for those of you who are new to the committee, we tend to have a quiet summer season with 1 walkthrough. Any preference 2 months for the first 2 meetings?
Should we keep it February?
I think February and May work. May is right before the beginning of the season, like the main climbing season.
And February is just enough to kind of see what work has been done
Mhm.
with the.
And we're starting to get more users in the park February when you get those sunny weeks. And any other recommendations or? No, all good. Okay, and then well, should we stick with our walkthrough in August? Is everyone? August, I know, is kind of a tough time for everybody because it's vacations.
You won't get many council members out in August.
Yeah, and typically we haven't. We've had a hard time with that walkthrough. Is there a time when we might want to, do we want to switch the walkthrough to June? Or do we want to,
Or September.
or September?
Yeah, may I make a suggestion that the walkthrough not be considered one of the formal meetings, but just a secondary sort of
Informal?
courtesy to council and staff who might want to come out,
Okay.
not make it a formal thing.
And then can we switch the walkthrough to be a formal, then have a fourth formal meeting then? Is that allowed?
We did one in November this year, and we had one in October, so it might be good to do that again, just have an October, November.
I would agree. Are we allowed to do that though?
Honestly, I don't know what the rules are.
I think the management plan outlined how many meetings we were supposed to have or could have, but
Yeah, I don't have a copy of that though.
It was quarterly.
I think if you set out the minimum,
the minimum.
but not the
And we can
maximum.
add, yeah.
I mean,
So-
we added this one
Yeah.
today.
I just think it's a shame because we don't do it a lot. It's summer is quiet. All of a sudden October hits, we have like a 90-minute meeting, and then half of the time we want to talk about things a little bit further. So having it in October, November, as long as it's not on Christmas. I'm
Yeah, or
okay.
September, November, because I do feel strongly that we need to have our meetings. Like if we have a meeting in May and then we don't have another till October, we don't have a chance to get up to date on things, and we don't have a chance to spend our budget if the last meeting of the year is in October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is September and November work for everybody?
Isn't there a case for having 3 meetings before the summer? Seems that all the meetings beyond the summer, in fact, are a waste of time. We better have most of the meetings front end.
That's what you've got to.
Because then you can actually make, I mean, the experience
money.
this year is the decisions didn't get made because there was a May meeting, there was an intent to do stuff, and then the summer
Okay.
happened,
Or
and
if you
inertia
had-
and so on. But if we had 3 meetings, if we'd had 3 meetings in the first half of the year, we might actually have been
How
where
does
we are
everyone feel about
now
that?
in June.
The only trouble, and I totally agree with having more meetings up front, the only challenge with that is we find ourselves again in the month of in fall when lots of work still needs to be done because the summer month, fall is just starting, we need to do winter projects, and then we kind of condense everything into November. So either we're having 3 meetings at the start, finding ourselves in the fall, so it's pushing another meeting for November to use up the rest of the budget or additional work, or we just keep it 2, have a walkabout, and then another 2, or we do 3, walkabout 2.
I like
So-
2 walkabout 2. I think that is adequate, and if we can't get our work done in those 4 meetings and a walkabout, it's probably not great
Unless we
management
all
of-
like to see each other more often, which is,
It's about the food.
So my preference is the 2 walkabout 2, because I do think that personally, I get more done in the fall.
Yeah.
But because coming up in the summer, especially with the Access Society, we've got a lot going on, so.
So February, April, and then a walkabout in June, July, and then meetings in September, November.
Yeah, that's fine.
February, May?
May, I was
February.
thinking.
February, April, February, May.
Yeah, probably push it a little bit deeper.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about how you determine your budget?
It's 5,000 a year.
Yeah, it's determined by
You-
the district.
You don't ask, you don't beg, you don't grovel?
We haven't.
We have a new council, we can try them out.
Well,
Can we double our budget?
okay, so like, if you're gonna do that, you would do that in February. My question to staff is, when do you deal with the municipal budget?
Yeah, no, it's a totally good question. So usually, so for any large capital items, like when we redid the parking lot, those sort of items, we do need to know that by the fall. That starts to go into the budget process in the fall.
So we're too late.
Okay.
Because your fiscal is not year-end, it's not an annual. Your fiscal year-end runs from April 1, does it not?
Our budget calendar is January 1 to December.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is.
the district fiscal is on the calendar year,
Yeah.
Okay.
not on the April.
And it is
calendar.
probably advisable, like if you have budget things that you wanna do, that you don't wanna leave it to December 1st to try and get those through, if you wanna try and get it earlier.
So do you think if we were to have any capital items and we were to decide on those in the September meeting, would that be sufficient notice for the district?
I believe September is. Is that too late?
Like it would be,
might
it would be
even-
first week of September?
I think even earlier, because
Okay.
I know for us, for operating and so forth, we have to get we're definitely through budget talks, it's almost past our end in the operational end of it, coming up to higher level.
Well, I think then perhaps our next meeting in February, we should go over these priorities and we should decide on our priorities early in the year.
Yeah, we don't
And
have
that
to
way-
decide on it
Yeah.
at the last minute.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so if anybody, does anybody against doing the two, so February, May, September, and November, and a walkthrough in the summer?
Sorry, September,
And November?
November.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we'll go with that.
Yeah, I don't know if I can't remember if the management plan said we're supposed to have meetings every 4 months or only 3 a year, but I think 4 is
I know
probably.
Terry just identified it is 4 meetings plus 1 walkthrough.
Oh, okay,
Oh, okay.
perfect.
Oh, great. Okay, so I thought it was 3. So that's great.
We'll charge a councillor,
I think we would call in
Anderson here with putting
Oh,
the
okay.
people out onto the trails and educate them or something.
Okay.
In the terms of reference, say, committee will meet regularly on a schedule to be determined by motion of committee at the first meeting, amended thereafter by motion, but not fewer than 4 regular meetings will be held by the committee in any one calendar year.
Perfect.
That's the bylaw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
do
we're
we
talking
need-
about the management plan,
Yeah.
which is a
The
second.
bylaw drives it.
So do we need a
Keep
motion to
up,
approve
right?
these meetings then? These?
My first meeting.
Meeting dates? Yep, okay. Okay, so let's move on. So we've got status of recommendations to council. So we had recommendations from the March 1st Smoke Bluff meeting that a kiosk map be provided by the District of Squamish once the Smoke Bluffs Trail is surveyed and the information is provided to staff. Any update?
Yes, sorry it's taken a while. Helen did a really great job with this map, and it's just a couple of minor things that I'll circle back with Helen on. So one is just wanting to ensure that the trails on it are in the park. The other is the park boundary.
Park boundary, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we just have to adjust those.
Yep.
Can somebody just verbally, maybe Helen, confirm the park boundary on the east side? Is it on the park side of the cut for the hydro line, or is it on the east side of the hydro cut?
Remember when we surveyed the boundary? It was on the far
Looks
side, right?
not, and according to this, it looks like it's on the west side, because see, there's,
I think it's on the west side.
So against the park?
I think it's against the
Yeah.
park, yeah, I think that it's an easement,
I think there's an
it's an
easement
easement.
here.
Well, did the easement come out of the
Yeah.
park though? I thought the easement came out of the park.
I think that the
Not
boundary is
private
on
land.
the
Oh,
on the east end. I think I remember when we flagged the park boundary, that our flags were right on the outside edge of the right of way.
really, but how did you determine that that was the park boundary?
With the shape file you gave me.
So Elaine, you guys must have
That's
the
right.
up-to-date survey information for
I
the
just
park.
made it up.
So we
Yeah.
don't know yet.
Yeah.
That would be really useful to know because that.
The district should have that
Yeah.
information, because the information that I have in here is not,
It's like
it's not the
ICI.
same as what the district has in their web map.
Yeah.
I know that.
There's a couple of parallel lines.
Okay, so that's not
Yeah,
really an issue.
I think it goes
Yeah.
across here, and maybe it goes up to this line here, so.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I honestly am not sure where this park boundary came from. It's pretty historical,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I'll work with Helen and with our GIS department to make sure that they work together.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, so next recommendation was that the district install a UD, urine diversion composting toilet in the main Smoke Bluff parking lot, and that the committee requested staff to begin review and approval for the process. Oh, sorry, these are mixed. So I guess the UD toilet. Any update?
I'll speak to that one. The unfortunate part of that, it's not possible to install one at this point in time. The budget, it's not been budgeted for.
For the sewer connection?
Yes, and we're talking about 300, probably over 300 meters, close to 350 meters to run a sewer line. And the dollar range is about $1,000 a meter. So and if you're going to run a sewer line, you're probably going to want to run a water line.
Do you know, I don't know if either of you would know this, but is there any update for the future for the subdivisions down there to run a line down Loggers Lane eventually?
I think the closest line now is coming from Adventure Center.
Oh, okay, and there's not one planning, like an update planned to
Not
upgrade
to my
it?
knowledge, I don't know. if
No, I don't know about that either. There is some sort of sub-area planning going on a little bit in that East Loggers Lane area, but it's nothing that's like imminent.
Okay.
They just did some upgrades to something in Loggers Lane last year.
That's from Raven, though. I think it was Raven, that last road. And they ran the services in on that one, I think.
Maybe, but they also did something south of whatever the road that Tim Hortons access is on. They had the road chewed up and they were putting a new pipe in there for a while last year. But it didn't go all the way back to the Adventure Center, so maybe they only replaced a section of it.
I think it only goes down to Raven, because there is, I think is an agreement with that new subdivision, which all those houses are being built. Part of that was that they actually had to service that Raven as well, I think.
I can ask our engineering department, that would be helpful.
Sorry, I'm new here, but is there some reason why the composting toilet has to have sewage? I've seen ones where they don't.
In the, same as the one that's in the upper bluffs, from what I
Yeah.
understand, is the solids are compostable, or, so you can't say it.
Sure you can.
Yeah, compostable, sometimes, is that right?
Yeah.
And but still, the liquid still needs to be connected to sanitary.
Or go into a septic field, right? That's the other, is that the other alternative?
That one I can't.
Brian Park could probably speak to that.
Can't
What's our
confidently
system
say.
at Burren Park?
Here in Park is a pure UD toilet with a septic field. That is a normal installation, but for various factors up in the Smoke Bluff upper parking lot, near the children's park, we installed a trial system up there, but for various reasons, including the availability of sewage lines or for drainage, we decided to divert the urine into the municipal sewage system.
Oh, but in Murin it goes to
In Murin, it's
septic.
a classic UD system,
Okay.
and we're as happy as clam about it.
How big is the septic field?
I'm not sure, you'd have to consult with, but it's not very big.
I don't think you could do a septic field at the parking
No,
lot, it's too
no.
close to riparian.
Yeah,
It's all
Well, and
water.
it's all rock and everything.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't work out.
Yeah, the
With
right
tank and pump.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the one in the Smokeless Park at the present is a hybrid system, so.
There's already outhouses there and they get pumped out.
Yeah.
And then without the UD system, correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes a lot more maintenance and you'd have to,
No, I'm sorry,
a composting toilet without the urine diversion requires more
Well, that's what I'm
maintenance than there's no such thing?
Sorry, you're losing me here. The system, the actual classic system where you have a septic field, the maintenance is absolutely minimal. It's really dealing with the waste management, which is an annual process where current pile is raked to the back of the housing and allowed to continue the composting operation while a new pile generates. And in the second year of this example, the original pile is raked out and is now compost, and the cycle keeps on going. The one that's installed in the Smokeless Park, it works just the same way, except they divert the urine directly into the sewer systems.
So
The
that
maintenance is essentially the same. It's raking the solids back twice a year to make it all work. We checked, I think earlier this year, at the end of almost 4 years of operation, and the system is extremely efficient. Works very well.
So can I make a suggestion on this note that given that it's not feasible at this time, that we consider that as part of our discussion in February on whether we want to keep it as part of the maintenance priorities, and if we want to adjust that maintenance priority to look at different options? Or do we want to have a motion now to the district staff to look into options that are more sustainable than the porta potties? Or are we happy with the way the porta potties are working for now, even though they're costly?
It sounds like they're still cheaper than a sewer connection.
Yes.
It is
Okay.
significantly cheaper than a sewer connection at this time.
Okay, so let's table that till our, or do you have something?
No, the only thing I was thinking, yes, tabled it. It's eventually somebody's going to develop something on that piece of property next door to it.
The parking lot, the rope road.
Yeah. Well, there's the rope runner, plus there's the other piece of
Oh,
land
the
where the logging
JR truck
company
is,
is.
yeah.
Which we'll be talking about later.
So at some point, somebody is going to develop
Bring a
that, in which
sewer
case
line.
we can probably just plug into it.
Amenities package.
Yes.
Yes. Get the developer to pay for it.
We'll keep it cheap for now and then have them pay for it later.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, I think these are kind of mashed up, but I'm not sure. So the next one was for the lower, like the east side trail, and I think we've discussed that to death tonight. So the next one would be recommendations from September 2013 that the committee reiterate to council. Oh no, same one still. Okay, so that the sign be installed close to neat and cool, informing park users where the washrooms are located. And so that was done, I believe.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Where is the sign? Does anyone know exactly where it is?
I haven't seen it.
I don't see it. I find it strange because I walk past her a lot and I don't recall seeing it.
I believe.
Is it actually opposite? The idea was it should be directly opposite Neat and Cool Cliff so that
That's what I thought.
when people walk out from there and consider
That's
leaning
what, that's
against
my understanding
my neighbour's
where it was
fences,
installed.
they think better.
I wonder if there might be some confusion because I think wasn't it up at Octopus's Garden that there was also going to be a sign, I thought, directing to the outhouse up there? Maybe I'm
Maybe there was, because I didn't, when that was brought up earlier, I had no recollection of talking about Octopus's Garden, and it's here we got Neat and Cool, which it does ring a bell.
Yeah, Neat and Cool is
Neat
a
and
kind of
Cool is
live
a problem,
issue this
so-
summer, yeah.
Sue, would you be able to look into that with John and just
Yes, I
confirm
can.
the location? Thank you. Okay, so any other referrals from council? Is that, there's none, okay. What's the correspondence item? Any correspondence from other than the user group input to the committee?
none that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, so let's open it up to a round table. Spencer, I'll let you start.
I'm fine.
Toby?
So at this point, I traditionally mention the problem with the entrance to the parking lot, the strangely subdivided industrial space there, Whistler Courier Services have a business there, the fact that they're using the public parking lot for their business, the fact that recently, and I can add, I drive past there all the time to see this constantly, what they're now doing, as well as using it for their own employee parking, so so little space on this area where they operate their courier business, they're now actually taking their courier vehicles into the parking lot and doing loading there. So, and I bring this up at every meeting, and over again, nothing, there's no feedback.
I wasn't
At the
at
last
the-
meeting, I was told that that there was some ongoing investigation of it, but
I wasn't at the last meeting. Just before that meeting, I emailed Sue, and it was so soon before the meeting that she didn't get my email. I didn't read back on that email before this meeting, so I can't totally recall, but I know that legitimately, or like those two businesses both have business licenses to operate there. I think that when the business license was given to the courier business, maybe it wasn't clear to the business license staff, the access. But in terms of whether they're parking in the Smoke Bluffs parking lot, our bylaw staff can't determine if that's like their staff that are parking there or if they're members of the public.
But is the actual, I mean, when we've discussed this before, there's been a question mark as to whether the
Is that
access,
even legal
is that access even legal? I mean, clearly it's a safety hazard, but you know, we often ask, is it legal, and we never get a response to that. But
Yeah.
it seems very, very strange that there's this gate next to a gate.
Yeah, I don't think, like I think if it had been reviewed before the business license was issued, I think that that would have been a problem. So I can check in with the business license staff and see whether we flag it for when their business license expires.
Okay. Brian, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I can attest that in fact the employees are using the park for
I've
parking.
seen it.
Because with my activities with the film company, I have occasion to be there early in the morning for site meetings with film crews. And I see these people arriving, getting out of their vehicles and walking into the business premises. So there's 6 cars there and they're all staff cars. I think it's totally ridiculous that they should be allowed to use a public parking amenity for their business.
Just to play devil's advocate on that, so if they park there, or they park over in the rope runner, or they park on 2nd Avenue, they're all public places. So
I
unless.
can't account for that.
No, I'm just curious as to, if, during 9 or 8 months of the year when the parking lot is seldomly used,
Thin end of the wage stuff.
should we open it up to commuter parking, since the rope runner actually is utilizing huge portions of parking that.
Is there some reason this business cannot park on the premises that they're conducting their business?
There's hundreds of businesses down Cleveland Avenue that don't.
So I have a photo here of actually one of their trucks in the middle of the parking lot. This is one of their actual commercial trucks, not the employee parking. So if anyone wants to look at it, welcome. I can forward it to whoever. This is from a month or so ago.
If it's a safety issue, I mean, I certainly have issues with that. I think we gotta be careful if we try to stop, people from using a public parking lot.
To run a business?
Well, if they're running a business out of the parking lot,
Well, Toby just told you.
yes. Well, we're talking about employees parking their cars, personal cars there, for the most part, and then walking over into the business, which.
But they're now actually loading their trucks up in the parking lot.
Like
So because
thin edge
nobody
of the
gives a
wedge.
damn, so they're just doing whatever they like. I mean, it's great this time of year, obviously, they have plenty of space. Just some people like me
So
complain
so what's
about
the
space.
issue? It's a safety issue?
No.
Well, it can't
Is
be,
it an
the
issue
access
of
is
use?
collide,
Is it
like there's,
illegal?
the main entrance to the Smoke Bluffs is small, and if there's trucks pulling out, it
So it's a
blocks
safety-
people's sight lines.
Eight-
But in
eight-
addition, like, even though 8 months of the year perhaps we don't have capacity, or we do have capacity, 4 months of the year, there's absolutely no
Right,
capacity
right.
there. And, I mean, 5 vehicles, it makes a difference in
Yeah.
Smoke Bluff lot in the summertime. And it sets a bad precedent to say you can park here this time of the year, but not this time of the year.
So they're gonna move the vehicles over to the rope runner parking lot, and take up parking spaces now for people, the tourists for the adventure center.
Or they
But
could
that
use
doesn't
their
affect
own
the park.
Well, they could use their own space. They have, but there's vast amounts of space there. It's just that for some reason the courier business has been given a few square meters, whereas whoever actually owns that site,
They're not
has-
choosing to utilize
the
their
rest of it
business
is being used
property.
for important things like somebody's trailer. So I mean, it just seems everything there is strange. There are people living there in trailers. I mean, there's far more than just this little courier service.
It is it's not a simple thing, and I absolutely agree it should be addressed, but it's not simple. I mean, I live
No, but we
downtown,
don't, but never-
there's 200 vehicles parked on the side of the streets, because garages are full of canoes, kayaks, mountain bikes, and everything else. So people are parking their personal vehicles all over the public
It has
lands.
no bearing on this
There's a
matter.
different
It
issue.
does,
Yeah.
it does.
I mean, again, this has been brought. This comes up every meeting. I mean, not every. Some of us attend all these meetings, and some of us turn up sporadically. This comes up at every meeting, and it never gets addressed.
So Elaine, you mentioned a couple action items that you could take away from this. Could you reiterate those for us?
Yeah, so I'm basically gonna I'll check on the status of their business license, on when it gets renewed, and on whether we can flag it. But as I mentioned, I don't know that there's anything that our bylaw department can do, because these are cars that are parked in a public lot. So I'll follow up, but I'm pretty sure that that's what bylaw has told me when I've asked them.
Okay, thank you.
But do the municipal bylaws say anything about conducting business in parking lots, or in parks?
Yeah, I'll check with bylaw. They might have to like catch them in the act, sort of thing. Do we often see them loading the courier truck?
They're always there.
They're always loading the
dialing
truck.
I've never seen them loading, but I'm not at the
Sorry, I
park
was
nearly
laughing.
as much as Toby is. Okay, Toby, do you have anything further for roundtable?
Nope.
A couple of points. To echo Brian's suggestion regarding the timing or scheduling of your walkabout, I would definitely avoid August. The people we want to attract out are people like myself and my colleagues, to give them exposure to the park, and so it would be a great opportunity. So I do suggest June, July should definitely be preferred. Secondly, in our orientation sessions over the last couple of weeks, the matter of leaking water pipes has come up. We have a lot of leaking water pipes around town, but one of them is inside the park, and that is the main branch just there by Neat and Cool. And I asked this as a question because I'm not sure about my memory of last winter, but that leaking pipe freezes. The water freezes over top of the rock face there, just down the slope from Neat and Cool Central. And it's a safety hazard. I've experienced it as a safety hazard. So I just raised this because, if you like, Elaine and I can work to bring this to the attention of the engineering department. Because there are water leaks all over the place, but if this one is a safety hazard during freeze-up, we should have them direct some attention to it. But I'm just not sure what I recollect, whether it's been fixed or what, but we can direct engineering to that matter.
I think I know, like, so I know the icy patch you're
Yes.
talking about, but I didn't realize it was.
It is a leaking pipe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the portion that's leaking isn't visible, it's got drip over it, but there's definitely a leaking pipe there.
So does anyone have an issue with Councillor Anderson following up on that?
That sounds great.
Okay, great. Do you have anything else for roundtable?
Lots of notes and learning here, and we'll have a chat with the staff later so we can just be as effective as we can be for you.
Thank you. Carolyn?
No, no parking issues, no nothing for me.
Sue?
Good, thank you.
Elaine?
I think the only thing I'll mention is that I've been on the committee for a long time and I've really enjoyed it. I think that it might be time that there might be a staff transition with another planner. There was limited staff this week, so another member couldn't come for like a transition today, but that might happen at our next meeting.
Oh, we'll miss you.
Thanks.
Okay, no
yes.
prayer flags for you.
Oh.
Oh yeah, here you go.
Did you have something?
No.
Maybe I should mention or emphasize something that Elaine has brought up, and that is that there will be an East Loggers Lane sub-area planning process. The terms of reference and objectives for the process have been set out, and I think that, Elaine, we should encourage members of the advisory committee to pay attention to that plan and drop in on behalf of their respective groups, because you would want to have that plan highlight the fact that this area is next to Smoke Bluffs Park. And because the plan will have broad scope as to future land uses, agricultural, residential, light industry, how much open space, what kind of density, what kind of infrastructure. All of these issues will be discussed for the East Loggers Lane area, and that is right up to the border of the park. So it is something that you should generally be aware of and pay attention to, and I encourage you to take part in the public input process.
So that's a neighborhood development plan?
It's a sub-area plan, a little bit more than a neighborhood plan. There was more recently a neighborhood plan done for Wilson Crescent area, which is too small for a sub-area plan, but this will be a little bit more higher status as far as...
Is it governed by the OCP?
It will be an attachment to the OCP, but
Yeah,
I'll let
it would-
Elaine
It
explain
would become a
further.
schedule to the OCP. I'm not sure where exactly that's at.
The
Like
boundaries?
I thought that the latest talk was that it might not encompass the whole area. Actually, it might be a little bit of a smaller
Finch,
area.
Robin, and Raven anyway.
Would it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So how far to the south it would go between, up to the park, I'm
Can
not
you show
sure.
us on a map what area it would be?
So you're talking about basically north of the lands that are part of the mineral quarry?
You can state it that way, so that the lands in the Huckleberry Patch there,
Yeah.
those that have a different OCP designation
It's mineral,
at present.
yeah, money, yeah.
That's right. So north of that.
What
But
about
it's still
what
out.
about 5212? Lot 5212 is the one that basically comes up from Loggers Lane, goes north and into Crumpet. It's kind of a Z-shaped lot. I believe it might have been divided into two pieces. First Nations may have an interest in one of the two pieces. And the other, it was a crown lot. And it was on the west side of Bob Fastlands. Rate would be, okay,
So these are municipal properties, municipal lands there?
Not necessarily.
that one is 5212. The one you just made blue,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
that was lot 5212. That one you've got the little mark on.
Elaine, I don't honestly know whether that's included in the scope of this plan, but we can find out. I would anyway still emphasize that it's relevant to you, this East Loggers Lane planning process.
Well,
Especially when you're talking about infrastructure questions like that, long-term ideas.
everyone can take note, and then maybe Councillor Anderson,
Yes.
you could fill us in at the next
Yep.
meeting if there's been anything that people haven't picked up on.
Certainly.
Okay, let's move on.
So that's showing as private, 5212.
I think that was the one that was just given to the First Nations.
Oh,
And I'm pretty sure they'd be interested in developing that.
pretty steep and rocky in places.
It's got a huge flat spot. It's basically the top of the hydro cut in Crumpet Woods, at the top of Three Virgins,
Yeah.
bottom of Pipe Trail. It goes up towards Spencer's Big Gay Ride and all that flat land up in there. It's a big chunk of land. Some of it's pretty steep and some of it's developable.
Wow.
Because, but maybe Elaine can talk about how the next Bob Fast development is going to butt up against that to the east, I believe.
Like this here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to zoom into the
Yeah.
right amount here. Yeah, that is privately owned land that's zoned residential. But I don't know that the topography will allow development that close to the park.
I thought he was going to concentrate on the west.
Northeast corner, I thought. I mean, that,
Sorry, east. Yeah, I thought he was going to the
that
east.
basically is all of those trails. Three Virgins and the Graduate and Pipe Trail and all that stuff. I mean, the steep rocky stuff in the middle there at the summit's not going to get developed, but I've seen subdivision plans for that whole area.
Yeah, I've got them.
Did you have something to add?
From
What is in the scope of the East Loggers Lane sub-area plan process is future potential road connection between Westway back in Valley Cliff and Finch Drive.
Yeah.
So that is within the scope of the plan, and it is something again to pay attention to.
And that's what FAST needs to start the next phase of development, I think.
Brian, did you have
That's
something
his
to
next
add there,
focus,
or-
yeah.
No? Okay. Okay, let's move on with roundtable. Are our guests allowed to contribute to
I'm good,
roundtable?
I'm good,
It's okay.
I'm good,
Yes,
I'm good.
okay. Helen?
Take over.
Well, I'm good too, but, and I've been on this committee for many, many years and I've really enjoyed it.
Is it,
it's-
I'll just ask one question, as
Sure.
maybe I'm not supposed to at this point, but in terms of adding something to an agenda in future, for example, camping within Smoke Bluffs Park, was it the first year in my memory that that's kind of happened?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something you guys have already discussed or something that, because
We
with
have.
social media being so powerful, it'd be nice to tackle it early, because
Mm-hmm.
last year, like, when there's people pooping everywhere in the park and all sorts of camping, which I've never seen, and so I think it would be great to early bird it. So I don't know if it would be something that,
Could I just comment, since this is on record, there's a difference between what people say is happening on social media and actual underlying reality. Not just in the smoke bus, but globally.
Really?
And yeah,
This is a revelation.
but specifically on pooping in the smoke glass, there was
Nobody
one
poops in the
particular person who this summer was obsessed with identifying number 1 and number 2 around the park. And it appears that it appears that not many people agreed that it was happening at the frequency, but nevertheless,
if you have a
Yeah,
dog
nevertheless,
that eats it,
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
I read about that in the paper today.
Then I saw a guy pooping right beside that.
But just talking about it on social media kind of brings it to everybody's attention and it probably makes it happen more often.
maybe.
I'm more thinking of using social media as a tool to deter camping, because as soon as people found out that the van thing was not a real go in Squamish this year, it actually deterred a lot of people from coming here. Like, it was still heavy van
Yeah.
use, and I'm not against, this is another topic, right? But I was just thinking in terms of trying to help deter camping in Smoke Bluffs, because it's the first year I've seen it. I saw actual people camping, tenting, hanging out.
And we did sort of, we did address that as we saw it. We had fires that we addressed, campfires, and but I think that's a good point to bring up for, we should look at what our plan is next year for signage and for awareness and education around the park for the new type of user or.
Aren't the gates closed at 10?
Actually, I sent you guys an email in October, I think, from that place I was in, Croatia. And it was kind of similar to Smoke Bluff Park and where there was climbing. And the first crag we went to, there were some people camping in some trees in between the crag and the water. And we put our rope down and started to climb, and then, fortunately the rope wasn't right on it, but there were little piles everywhere. And we don't want that to happen.
Helen, does the Mountain Federation have anything against kind of this ongoing camping? Because I know I brought it up with CAS BC before and been like, what can we do to be proactive? Because it's too late in August to start being like, well, there's a lot of camping.
Well, it's something that's got to be addressed in February.
Yeah.
And you got to get the word out before summer comes.
Have you guys thought of doing something? Is there a way we can kind of work together so we have the same message?
Caroline, there is the district has a camping working group, which is tackling the topic throughout.
Maybe we'll talk to you private.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we have to work with the district, like you say, but
Well, it's been ongoing for some time.
But it's got to be tackled early.
It's ongoing. It's been ongoing for some time. Province, district, advocacy groups like SAS, quite well publicised, has been going on for some time, continues to go on as far as I know. I mean, it's not a new topic. SAS brought it to the attention of the district back in May this year because we wanted some proactive activity before this summer. There was monitoring of actual amounts of camping, land camping and so on, and there are plans to try and do more next year. So I mean, it's ongoing. It's not it's not an ignored. It's not an ignored.
We should probably discuss those the district initiatives and the local advocacy initiatives at one of the meetings too. So we're all aware of what initiatives are impacting the Bluffs.
Yeah, it's also the same messaging, so we're all kind of giving the same message.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Wes?
Nothing really.
Just super briefly, just on what Eric raised, just about the potential possible development at the end of Finch, and Trail Society would be interested in if development occurs there, green corridors connecting to the park to allow for pedestrian and multi-use trails.
No, sorry, I said thank you.
Okay, I just have one quick thing. If in advance of the next meeting, if everyone has a chance, could you review the management priorities and the capital priorities just in advance so that, and have the things that you feel strongly about or things you want to add kind of as a side note so that we can kind of tick through all those things in a sort of efficient manner at our next meeting?
Can you send out a link for the...
I absolutely can, yeah.
For the new, thank you.
And include the wildfire protection plan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you guys for all coming, and thanks, I know we kind of breached some touchy subjects tonight, so thanks for all letting each other speak, and I think it's going to be a great next meeting. We have lots to do next meeting.
Good job, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, the Smoke Bluff Park management plans are not on the district website.
Oh, that's a good, Brian, one thing, we haven't had a motion to close yet.
We'll,
Make a motion?
Okay.
My wife was waiting outside.
So let's put forward,
Oh, I see, yeah.
okay, so we'll put forward a motion to close.
Motion closed.
Motion to close, seconded. Thank you, guys.